look at this. It was posted just a couple of hours ago, and it's already getting 737 quote retweets. Over 500,000 views. 43 retweets. I know it's a low-hanging fruit, but it's really interesting because it says capitalism breeds innovation. And it pretends that capitalism only has hamburgers. I guess this meme itself is a nothing burger. We used to have a joke here under the Iron Curtain, which was that Lada came in a myriad of versions depending on what shit resources the factory had that week. So there was definitely diversity under socialism. I mean, sure, you only had one brand of coffee, but you never knew what you got in the box. It could be like really shitty coffee of that brand, or it could be actually better of the same brand. You didn't know until you tried it. Actually, it reminds me of something that I read from history when the Nazis went into the Soviet Union during Operation Barbarossa. They found a lot of guns and they were surprised. It's like, oh, the Russians are manufacturing so many. But no, it was the same model of gun. It's just that the factories were producing it not to standard. And this was happening because the factory owner had to lie to the higher-ups in order to save their skin, which is something that happens a lot in authoritarian regimes, especially the ones with centralized economy. The person in top makes demands that aren't feasible or realistic, and then the factory owner, the person in charge of maintaining the factory, they have to lie to save their skin. So, going back to this meme, the reason I chose to make this video, it's not due to the low-hanging fruit, but it's due to the explanation of how capitalist market works versus socialist market. Because, yeah, sure, at the end of the day, you may have, like, even under capitalism, you have, like, this centralization, if you will, where hamburgers sell, so, like, a lot of places just make hamburgers, right? Like, another shawarma restaurant opens up, basically. So why does it happen? Now, if you look at how socialists market goods, it's very similar to how the woke market goods. So, if the socialist government wants to create a pair of boots, the way they think about it is, how can we create a pair of boots that is for the people? Right? So, for everybody. Like, everybody should use this pair of boots. And then they think about it, okay, so it has to be cheap. Because we need enough material to go for everybody. And everybody should be able to afford it. So, make it cheap. Let's make it so that it lasts against wear and tear. Let's make it water resistant so that people can go out in the rain and walk through the mud without damaging the boot. So that's how it works under a central planned economy. The government, like someone there, they think like what you need, so they think on your behalf what you're going to need, and then they create it. Now what's interesting is that you can actually end up with a really good pair of boots that are probably ugly as fuck, but design was never the purpose. Like, the purpose was so that everyone can have them and that they are functional. So yeah, it's an ugly pair of boots, but it's very functional. They can last for years. I remember when I was young, boots would last you for literally 2 or 3 years before they would start tearing apart. But the problem is that if you happen to require boots for other things, like for example jogging, those may not be just as functional. If you require boots for mountain climbing, definitely you're going to need something that is different than what the government had planned for you. If you need boots to go to a party, like a wedding or something, well, those aren't going to be the type of boots you need. And you can't find anything that you want because the government gives the things that they think you're going to need. So now you have to figure out ways on how to get boots from another country, how to figure out ways in order to get them illegally. Right? Like that was the problem with central planning. The government thinks on your behalf, it thinks what you will need, and if you don't happen to actually need that or you need something else, tough shit. And the reason that I'm saying this is that it's very similar to how the woke make entertainment. Like, they look at something, let's say Warhammer 40k, and they say, oh, it needs to be inclusive, it needs to be for everybody, so we're going to the ideologues. The ideologues are going to central plan Warhammer 40k, so that every person enjoys it. Okay, so now we can't have titties, we can't have Slanesh, because some people who are offended of sexuality won't play it. We can't have this line of text in, because people who are offended by racismus won't be able to play. So like, they're manufacturing the game with the mind that everyone should be able to enjoy it, and they're thinking like, okay, well, what could possibly offend someone so we can remove it from the game. This is how woke entertainment is made. It's manufactured. There's no creativity there. Meanwhile, the way capitalism is supposed to be, it's like this. You have many products on the market that are available. Like, anyone can create whatever they want, and then people get to decide what they want to buy, and the public orients itself based on what they like. And if the public happens to like hamburgers, well, guess what? There's going to just be more hamburgers, because if you open a new restaurant, you're going to do a little bit of market research. You're going to see, okay, people like hamburgers, and you're going to put that product, and it's going to sell. And this is why you end up with this level of innovation. It's because this is what the people want. This is what the public want. If you go into another country, if you go in Japan, you're probably going to find different type of cuisine. It's still going to be like the same stuff. You know, you're probably going to have like 200 types of ramen in Japan that are served as fast food. But that's because that's what the people there want. Like, the economy is like a living body, and it rearranges itself to fit the needs of the people. It's not centrally planned. Right? Because at the end of the day, when you're looking at the Soviet Union and you're looking at this picture, it does seem, oh, well, it's the same product. Oh, not really. Like, first of all, I'm pretty sure that a Chick-fil-A is very different than a Sonic. I don't have it here in Romania, so I can't tell. But obviously, they have their own brands and they have their different flavors. But secondly, you can do something else if you want. Like, you don't have to cook it like this. You can serve ramen in the United States. Will it sell? Well, it depends where you're selling it and how good it is, right? But like, I'm pretty sure that if someone came up with a really amazing ramen recipe in the US and it sold very well, there would be other restaurants in the local area that would start selling ramen as well. And over time, over 20, 30 years, maybe you would have an entire ramen industry if the American people like it, right? Because that's how it works in a capitalist place. In a central planned economy, this doesn't exist. Right? Like, even if people would require a different type of boots, the government could say, okay, well, what type of boots they want? Well, they want boots to go partying. Well, we don't want the workers to go partying because they get drunk, they show up late for work, it's not productive, so we're not going to make that type of boots. Right? Like, that's the difference between central planning versus a capitalist economy. In central planning, you have someone that thinks on your behalf. And they think what's good for you, even though they don't know who you are, they don't know your name. So I definitely prefer this system, which is obviously hyper simplified, but I hope that I did a good job in this video to explain the oversimplification. So don't be fixated on boots and hamburgers. You know what they're trying to say. Let me know what you think. I'll see you guys in the comment section, and if you do like the channel, there is a link in the pinned comment that would direct you to a website where you can support me. Take care.